Well, it's been a long time coming. VenomFangX posted a 6-part video series called Satan Invented Evolution. Yes, that's really what it's called. I am planning on posting a 6-part video series wherein I refute each and every part of his 6-part video series. Can I say 6-part video series some more? Yes, I can. 6-part video series. 6-part video. Wait for it. Wait for it. Motorcycle ruining dramatic effect. Wait for it. Series. Oh yeah, that's great, isn't it? Now, before we start, you should know that VenomFangX will not approve these video responses. I won't even attempt to get them approved because he doesn't approve anyone who curses or anyone who disagrees with him, even in a respectful manner most of the time. K-Bane actually responded to him a few times in a very respectful manner, and I don't think I've ever heard K-Bane curse, and he wasn't approved. But oftentimes he will use the profanity as an excuse not to approve video responses, and he's apparently very offended by profanity. So I just wanted to get right off the bat and say, fuck you, VenomFangX, I hope you die, motherfucker. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you fucking shit for brains, motherfucking creationist piece of shit. Alright, so we got that out of the way. The second thing you should know, and I think you've already figured it out by now, is that I'm not planning on doing the most civil response. I'm not going to be friendly and do the rabbit ape thing where I'm like, okay, well, here's why this claim is wrong, and hold your hand through it. I'm going to go. It's going to be fucking ad hominem laden attack videos. Basically, I will refute a few points. I'm not going to be totally without content, but for the most part, this is just ad hominem shit to own the ever-loving fuck out of him. Not that it's really necessary because he owns the ever-loving fuck out of himself, but people really like to watch outright slaughter, I suppose. Another thing you should know, and this is the third thing, I guess the third disclaimer in a series of 4. There's going to be 4 disclaimers, but this is the third one. The third disclaimer is that if you've never seen a VenomFangX video and you're not sure what to expect when I put him on screen and he starts talking, you may want to have someone in the room to hold you back to prevent you from punching your computer screen as hard as you can, because that is a natural reaction. I barely caught myself. I almost did it. I was like, oh, motherfucker. Then I remembered how I broke my webcam when I tried to punch Sort of a Law. You know, it's not very effective to punch someone through the internet, unfortunately. That technology has not yet been invented. The fourth disclaimer is that he looks a lot like this kid I went to school with. And I was kind of mean to the kid in school. And I feel bad about it retrospectively. So I might actually go a little bit too easy on him because I just, he just reminds me of this kid I was really mean to back in high school. It'd be totally fucked up to find out he was the same kid, because me and this kid always used to have theological debates too. And, anyway. So let's just get right the fuck to it, because, let's just get right to it after I've blabbed on for 4 minutes.
Welcome back. Got a question for you guys. Do you believe that a frog can turn into a prince? Did you know they're still teaching that fairy tale in schools, although instead of a magical kiss, no. Now it's millions and billions of years.
Ooh, millions and billions of years. I love how you're saying that little Dr. Evil impression of yours. Millions and... I can't do it. You do it a lot better than me, but you should have just put the fucking pinky up to the mouth, because you know you were doing a fucking Dr. Evil impression just then. Like everyone who believes in evolution is Dr. Evil-esque, we should, stroking our little felines and all that. You caught us. Instead of believing that a frog can turn into a more complex life form with magic, we believe that it might be possible incrementally over, millions and millions of years. That's a really outrageous idea. You're right. It's totally out of line. Even though it's we have a fossil record and DNA evidence and all that stuff. I mean, that's all just bullshit. Science was invented by Satan, as you've already pretty much said in earlier videos. So, fuck us. You're right. You win. You scored that point right there.
There are two ways to look at this world. One is to look at the Earth and say, this is amazing. A Big Bang made this from nothing. That is called the humanist worldview. The other way to look at the world is to say, wow, there's an incredible design here. There must be a smart designer. This is called the Creationist worldview, and it is at war with the humanist worldview. Someone is wrong.
Someone certainly is. First of all, that's not called the humanist worldview. Humanists are people who have a very pro-human point of view. It has nothing to do with how the Earth came to be. People who believe in the Big Bang are not called humanists. Those are two totally separate things. But of course you don't care. You'll go right on spouting the same shit even after you've been corrected because you're a fucking idiot.
First, let's try and answer the four great questions according to the two worldviews. Let's use evolution first. Who am I? What am I worth? Well, if evolution is true, you're nothing important. You're just a bunch of protoplasm that washed up on the beach. And you're not worth a thing. In fact, since you're a polluter of the environment, the more of you we can get rid of, the better.
What? Who thinks that? I'm sure people do think that. I'm sure there are people who think that way. But, I don't. I don't know many evolutionists who do. It's so contradictory, too, because later on in the video you go on and talk about how we adopt this philosophy because we want to feel like gods. We're trying to take God's place. And, but in this particular sense, you're saying that we all believe that human beings are just degenerate nothings. So which is it? Which do we believe? Are we trying to take our place among the gods, or are we trying to lower ourselves to pawn scum? I mean, you have to choose. I mean, if you're going to distort our worldview, you at least have to choose what you're going to distort it to.
Where did that come from? Well, if evolution is true, you're just the result of a cosmic burp 20 billion years ago by sheer accident.
And you're saying cosmic, which leads me to think you're talking about the Big Bang. Which leads me to think that you think the Big Bang is like a biological event, and it's not. And people have told you this before. I know they have. You've heard enough times that cosmology and biology and chemistry, those are all separate fields of science. They have nothing to do with one another. And yet you seem to continue to ignore this simple fucking fact. It's not even difficult to comprehend. It's not even necessary for you to attack the Big Bang in order to attack evolution, because, even if there is no Big Bang, even if you prove the Big Bang was a bunch of bullshit, which you'll never fucking do, someone might, but it won't be fucking you. Even if you did manage that, it wouldn't detract from evolution even slightly. It would have no bearing upon evolution whatsoever.
Why am I here? Well, if evolution is true, you're not here for a reason. You're actually here because there is no reason. And if it feels good, you might as well do it because you're going to die one day. So if you want to go murder anyone you want, or rob a bank, or, just make life miserable for everyone, by all means. Hey, there's no meaning to life, right?
Hey, man, you might as well do all that stuff, because Jesus will forgive you afterwards, it doesn't matter what you do. If you just ask forgiveness from Jesus later, that's fucking cool. Rob, rape, steal, kill. You just ask forgiveness after it's all said and done. You see how that feels to just have, your philosophy on life twisted into meaning something that you would never endorse in a million years? Don't feel good, does it? Knock that shit off, asshole.
Where am I going when I die? Well, if evolution is true, you're going to be recycled into an earthworm or a plant.
Okay. How could you get that one wrong? It's so fucking easy. No. You don't get recycled into an earthworm or a plant. There's not like reincarnation. You're just gone. That's it. You have no brain to think with anymore. All your thought processes happen up here. All your senses come from this fucking epidermis loaded with fucking nerve endings. You taste with your fucking tongue. You smell with your fucking nose. You see with your fucking eyes. Everything that you sense can be explained physically. So, when you die, that's all gone. You just don't exist any fucking more. It's the easiest fucking part of what we believe to comprehend. And you still got it wrong. You think that you're just your fucking body. I mean, your body might decompose into something that feeds the soil or something. Not likely anymore. More likely you'll be fucking cremated or embalmed and then fucking pumped full of all those embalming chemicals and shoved in a fucking box in the ground. So even that's really not true anymore. But, it's not you. You're just gone. It's the most depressing part of what we believe, and you couldn't even get it right. It would have been your strongest emotional argument. Do you want to believe that you're going to just be nothing? Or do you want to believe you're going to go to heaven and play with Jesus? I'm going to play with Jesus, build a little Lincoln log cabin with Jesus. Yeah, okay. Every single one of these arguments. First of all four of them are bullshit. Second of all of them are emotional appeals, because it's like, would you rather the world be dark and gloomy and depressing, or would you like it to be happy and filled with rainbows and smiles?
Now, let's look at it from the other point of view. The Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, if that's true, that gives us a very different set of answers to those questions. So, we better find out who God is and what He wants and do what He says. But you see, the devil doesn't like that. The serpent came to the woman and said, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? ?
That's your serpent impression? I mean, I am a serpent! Your regular voice sounds more like a fucking snake than that. In fact, I would give a serpent a voice pretty similar to yours. Maybe just add a little lip. Then you would just sound gay, which is better than you sound now anyway, so.
The first thing out of the devil's mouth was a question to make Eve doubt God's word.
Fear questions! Questions are the devil's tool! Every time you see a question mark, beware! Question nothing, except everything. Whoa.
Well, the fact is that Satan can't be God because the job is not available. And he's all angry about that, so he hates God. But he can't do anything to God, so he hates us because we are made in the image of God.
Are you psychoanalyzing Satan?
I'm convinced the devil is laughing at people who believe in evolution because he's using it to take them down to hell. He doesn't believe it, but he's glad that you do.
Foolish humans believing evidence and science over God.
Adolf Hitler once said, if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough and often enough, the people will believe it.
Yeah, nothing attests to that fact better than, hey guys, there's a magical kingdom in the sky, and when we die, if we're good and we believe in Jesus and give all our money to the church, we can go there. Wow, that sounds great. I'm in. Me too. But one thing, guys, you have to renounce all your cognitive faculties and just go with the flow, whatever the church says. Well, hell, I can do that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. And then they all went to heaven and ate gumdrops.
He said they're more likely to believe a big lie than a small one.
Let's just assume that evolution and God are both a lie. They're both lies. Both complete fucking bullshit made up to trick people. Which one would you think is bigger? The lie that we developed through this long, protracted process of mutation and adaptation and over millions and billions of years, or the idea that we were spontaneously brought into creation by a magical being who has unlimited power and unlimited wisdom, and no one knows where he came from, but we don't ask those questions. Which do you think is the bigger lie? If they're both lies, which would you think is the bigger lie?
Teachers are commanded to stress that the Earth is thought to be at least 4.5 billion years old.
Saying something in a mocking voice is enough to discredit it. Sorry, you have to have... I mean, it's okay to use a mocking voice. I mean, I'm not going... I'm not being down on you. I would almost say going down on you, and that was just a revolting image that filled my mind with. But I'm not going to be down on you for using a mocking voice to discredit something. But to have nothing else but just a mocking voice, I mean, that's pretty lame. You have this highlighted thing in a science textbook, and you say in this really ominous tone, like, teachers are commanded to teach their children that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Like it's part of some terrifying conspiracy, Maybe they're taught to teach their children that because that's what we can discern about the age of the Earth from things like carbon dating, which we'll discuss in the refutation in one of your later videos.
This is a first grade textbook. It says Earth has changed much since its formation 4.5 billion years ago. Be sure to tell them again in second grade. Since its formation 4.5 billion years ago, Earth has changed.
Oh, change! What a ridiculous notion! Everything has always been the same! Yeah, because, we know that nothing changes. I mean, just go back to the 1800s and ask our, ancestors with the horses and buggies and shit. They'll tell you nothing ever changes. Yeah, it's obviously a conspiracy. I mean, they teach them in first grade and in second grade. I mean, if it was just in one grade, I would totally discredit everything you say. But the fact that they try to teach them the same fact 2 years in a row, that really lets you know that that's totally insane. I mean, this is obviously something that's being drilled into their heads. Propaganda of the liberal school system run by the atheists and the Muslims, no doubt.
Question. Do the teachers know that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, or do they think that? They think that. Were they there?
Were they there? Were they there? What the fuck? Were you there when God created the Earth? I mean, no. You just believe it because it's on a fucking one book. And there's no evidence for your book. Our book is supported by, little things like fossil remains and carbon dating and fucking erosion.
Did you know in the early 1800s the world was thought to be about 10,000 years old? And then by the early 1900s it was thought to be about 2 billion years old? And now here in the year 2000 is 4.5 billion years old?
Anyway, yeah, science has that pesky habit of, updating its facts as new evidence becomes available. You caught us red-handed. We're always flip-flopping, You just can't stand the idea that maybe all the answers aren't just wrapped up in a pretty little package with a fucking bow on top, can you?
Evolution is a very tricky word because there are over 5 definitions for it. Let's begin with the first one. First is cosmic evolution. If there is no God and the humanist worldview is true, they need to explain how the universe came to be, and that is what they use the Big Bang Theory for. It's the origin of time, space, and matter. We call it cosmic evolution or the Big Bang. This has never been observed, obviously, and there's no way to prove that it happened. So it is not science. Number 2, chemical evolution. The origin of higher elements from hydrogen, of course not proven either. Number 3, stellar and planetary evolution. Without the hand of God, you'd have to explain what the stars formed from or how they formed, and where the planets came from and how they formed. So, stellar and planetary evolution has never been observed. We've never seen a star form, and we've never seen a planet form. We have theories of how it happened, but of course they're not founded in science. They're pure fantasy and speculation. Number 4, organic evolution, origin of life from non-living material, otherwise known as abiogenesis, which has actually been proven wrong for over 200 years. Spontaneous generation is impossible, and there's no way to get life from non-living material. Number 5, macroevolution, changing from one kind of animal to another. Of course, also unobserved. We've never seen a monkey give birth to a human. We've never seen a dog give birth to anything but a dog. A banana has never created anything but a banana. Farmers rely on the fact that micro or macroevolution never happens. When they plant an apple, they expect to get an apple every time, and they do.
Okay, first of all, cosmic evolution and planetary and stellar evolution are part of the same thing, which is cosmic evolution, which is not really related to evolution as you're discussing it in this video. Cosmic evolution is just the study of how things change in the universe. It's not there's no theory of growing complexity. I mean, there might be particular theories, but there's definitely not a unified theory yet as to how the universe formed. I don't see any reason to address chemical evolution because you say nothing to refute it in the entire rest of the series. Organic evolution is not, that's not the proper definition for anything. What you're talking about is abiogenesis, which is not part of the field of evolution. Macroevolution, of course, you're talking about speciation here, and of course speciation is documented. You're never going to see anything like a horse give birth to a monkey or some shit like that, because, yeah, you're right, animals do only give birth to their own kind. The thing is that it's not that animals are going to suddenly give birth to an entirely new species, it's that through successive generations, hundreds upon hundreds of generations, animal species might vary significantly. We've done this ourselves with dogs. I mean, just like you can breed the aggressivity out of a certain breed of dog, or you can breed a dog to be taller, or fatter, or shorter. I mean, all dogs descend from domesticated wolves. You know, I have a Maltese. I mean, he looks nothing like a fucking wolf because he was bred to be small and cute and furry, so that the women in Malta could attract the fleas away from themselves, because back in those times, fleas were a major problem for people. And the different breeds of dog have not yet become entirely different species, but they look so vastly different now that you could see how, in a few hundred more generations, they might not be able to breed anymore.
Now, there is a sixth definition called microevolution, which is proven. What microevolution is variations within kinds. So you might get a Macintosh apple, and you might get a few different types of apples, but they're still apples.
So you think the genus is free to vary, but the species isn't? How does that make sense? I mean, that's like saying that we can drive a car for a mile, but we can't possibly drive it 100 miles. You can't possibly drive it until you're in a new state. You can't possibly progress to the point where you're something entirely different. How can you say that small changes are possible over a small period of time, but large changes aren't possible over a large period of time? That makes no fucking sense. You don't even have to be a fucking scientist to figure this shit out.
Scientists have been breeding the world's fastest reproducing animal, the common housefly, for the jillionth generation. There are now so many it's uncountable, and they're breeding them consecutively, one after another, trying to see when the fly will eventually not be a fly, and they're still making flies after all these years.
Plenty of examples of speciation where one kind of fly becomes another kind of fly that cannot breed with the kind of fly that it was before, or it splits into two different species of fly, neither of which can breed with another. I know you won't accept that as speciation, even though it technically is. I know you're looking for an example of a fly becoming a moth or something along those lines. The most obvious example I can think of that is us, and how human beings and chimpanzees share a common ancestor. And this has been proven to you by Rabbit Ape, and you refuse to believe the absolute airtight fucking proof, and also proven to you again by K-Bane, both of them using retroviral DNA to prove absolutely that that we did once share a common ancestor. You totally ignore this evidence. Also, our second chromosome being a combination of two earlier chromosomes where you can clearly see where they fused. And Ken Miller discussed this. I'll link to that fucking video as well. And I'll link to Rabbit Ape's video, and I'll link to K-Bane's video, where it's been proven numerous times to you. Proven. I don't use the word "you were shown" like some pretty good evidence. Proven to you, beyond any fragment of a reasonable doubt, that human beings and chimpanzees share a common ancestor. And you've denied it. And even though I know you don't buy into it, I will cite, I'll link to some examples of speciation in fruit flies in those experiments. They didn't become some other creature entirely, but they became an entirely different kind of fly. One that couldn't breed with another kind of fly. That's a different species. And, it's foolish to think that just because we haven't observed a phenomenon that we all say takes millions of years, in the short amount of time that we've had this unified theory of how life came about on Earth, it's a ludicrous standard to hold it to. But we can show it. We can show it with DNA evidence, which you conveniently just dismiss as, bullshit, fuck you, I'm a Christian, I don't need it.
You have two choices. Either the Big Bang, this explosion from nothingness, was the beginning, or God was the beginning. There had to be something that always existed.
So our choices are a phenomena that requires almost no complexity whatsoever, or a complex consciousness right off the bat. Do you actually listen to these words as they come out of your mouth? Don't you think that the Big Bang, just a phenomenon that just, big ass fucking explosion out there in space, I mean, that's not really what it is, but for the sake of argument, or a all-powerful being is just there, just chilling out, just like you just imagine you're God, okay? You're just sitting there, and wow, I just exist. Fuck, I mean, there's nothing else here, but I'm here. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Maybe I'll make it like an Earth or something. There we go. There's an Earth. And I'll put some people on it, and some plants, and some animals. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a nice little... You know what? I'm going to give them a bunch of bullshit rules just to fuck with them, because I don't really like them that much. That makes sense to you. Really, genuinely makes sense to you.